So let's begin and settle in and no matter what your time zone is, where you're gathering from, what corner of this beautiful earth you're here, it you don't come here casually. I just want to really acknowledge the intention and the commitment. I mean, this actually is an expression of your presence, the fact that you're here. I wanted to begin by acknowledging that each month when we gather, when Erin or Patty or I are offering these practice periods and exploration periods, that this actually is like part of the building the muscle of presence. And how when we practice together, when we gather, when we share our experiences, it supports us what already is here and developing in the realm of presence. I'm also going to just ask for everyone to put themselves on mute. Again, I'm getting a little bit of ambient sounds. If you can do that, great. Thank you. So let's just have a brief settling practice. So you might begin actually by some movement, maybe a stretch, and maybe some sound, sighs, or a big yawn. Mm. Mm. Someone is unmuted, but I actually like that. I think it's so helpful to hear other people's sounds. So thank you. Good groans are welcome. And then just feeling into your body, and you're welcome to close or lower your eyes. As you feel your way into a quality of groundedness. So maybe you bring both feet flat on the floor if your legs were crossed, inviting an uprightness in the spine. Which often corresponds very naturally to an openness in the chest. Maybe even a deeper breath, the jaw letting go. Entering this moment just as you are. Full or empty, or maybe a little of both. Aware of sounds, sensations, thoughts, emotions that may be coursing through, and taking your seat. Taking your seat in the middle of things. Sometimes we want, as we come to practice, we want things to be a certain way. We want to be calm. We want to be nourished. We want to receive. We want some bit of peace. And these words from Frank Osistesky, the founder of the Zen Hospice Project, he says, find a place to rest in the middle of things. Taking your seat right in the middle of this moment of your life. And as you settle, you might find your way to an anchor of attention, a place to gently rest your attention. It might be the feet or the hands, the breath, or the sitting bones. It might be wider. It might be the entire body sitting. See if you can allow the anchor to choose you, keeping in mind that the anchor feels familiar, usually, and neutral. So if we've got a pulsing headache or a strong stream of mind or sensation, it might be challenging to come to a neutral place, but that's the role of the anchor, a neutral place. And already in these first few moments, you might feel even very slight shifts, the quality of settling or opening, more fully arriving in the body. And maybe something larger. Very gradually and gently as you're ready, opening the lens of attention wider. So moving from the anchor, wherever you've been, to include the entire body. Maybe inviting a little bit of movement, some stretching, gently opening the eyes or raising the gaze. Thank you all for practicing. It's always surprising. I've been practicing for over 30 years, and it's always surprising to me how much can change in a very short time and how compelling the speed and process of our life can be. How much I need the reminder to slow down, to pause, that the house won't burn down, at least in this moment, and that I can afford this. So the title for our session today is Navigating Turbulent Times with Presence. And I want to let you know what we're going to be doing, what my intention is, and give you a couple of heads up around this. So what I'd like to do is explore both of these elements, turbulence and presence, and recognize the human tendency when there is turbulence, and we can call it stress or challenge. I like turbulence. It's gives a sense of the bumpy ride of this life. When challenges here, our minds tend to fixate on them. And part of what we're really about in mindfulness practice is being able to notice that, to be aware of it, and then with kindness, clarity, firmness, choice, shifting to presence. And this takes some energy. It takes some effort often, because we can get easily really pulled, sucked down the drain of the challenge, of the turbulence. So want to look at both of those, explore both of those with you, and also explore a variety of practices and behaviors that might be useful at various times that really embody presence. And some of these you might know, and you likely will have other ones. But I've had a few experiences in the last few days and weeks that feel like this might be a really helpful way to recollect, literally recollect some of these possibilities. I also want to say that I'll be offering some opportunities to reflect on how you might be exploring turbulence in your own life, with the caveat that if this doesn't feel so great, to choose something really neutral. It's like when you go to the gym the first time, or after you've been laid up or sick or haven't made it to the gym in several months, you don't immediately go for the heaviest weights. Go for something moderate, or even the baby weights, the little 1-pounders, the 3-pounders. And this can actually be really fruitful. We can actually gain a lot by working with what isn't too challenging right now. If you think about how musicians train, they play scales. Between concerts, when they're not preparing for some big event, you do your scales. You keep your fingers limber so that there's retraining, and the default is a facility with those notes. Same with running or swimming or any of the skills that we think of are highly competitive or performance related, that in the times between these big events, and we might think of the big events as turbulence, um, we can still practice. So I want to just really encourage you today that to not choose the number 10 on the Richter scale of turbulence, and actually to maybe even stay really middle of the road, or simply just to practice, to try these things out. So if you're willing to consider some of the turbulence that you're facing, and I want to make a clarifying point here around this. This word navigating. So we often have an episode, something big that happens. We receive a diagnosis or something's happening to someone, and from that experience, there's minutes and days and weeks that unfold, that there's still this vibration, this quality of challenge, up and down, after the initial impact. And that we want to think about this in ways about the ongoing nature of this. How do we restore in the middle of that? It's like this Frank's quote, finding a place to rest in the middle of things. So just want to name that. So if any of you are care to, put in the chat what some of the turbulence is that you're working with in your life. I'm aware in the US, there's also a lot of community and national issues. We're in the middle of a political campaign and election cycle. Economically, things are up and down. But then there's all the things that are happening. Kids are getting ready to go back to school, maybe trying to fit in a final vacation. So just consider, where do you feel bumpy in your life? Where might this turbulence show up? And if you just chat it to me, I can read out, or if you feel comfortable sharing with the group, you're welcome to do that. It's great. Some of you are just chatting to me, and I'll say those: a new boss at work, being alone for the last year, caretaking of a husband who has Alzheimer's, acceptance, still grieving husband's passing 5 years ago, loss of family, youngest child starting kindergarten and oldest child starting middle school, changing careers, supporting aging parents, separating from spouse, and my mom passed, grief, selling small business my wife and I have owned for 16 years, father in hospice, parenting teenage daughters, the grief of mom passing, lots of loss here. Yeah. So thanks, Tisha. What's the bumpiness you're facing? What's the turbulence, if you care to share it? Yeah, thank you, Lauren. The community has it. Living in a kitchen remodel. Yep. Job search, professionally, lots of changes, covering for a lot of people. Long COVID, non-diagnosis. Pure O. I'm not sure what that means. Changes at work, moving mother from an hour away closer to me, rehabbing a small unit for her, scheduling for knee surgery for the mom, needs to have all of her teeth replaced as well. All so much job uncertainty, caretaking a difficult person. In-laws are sick and overseas. Navigating the vitriol in this current election season. Father-in-law received a terminal diagnosis. So I want to, this, can you feel the palpation of what's here? And, we can look on the screen and see everybody seems relatively, okay from what we can see. But then when we take this in, we recognize everything that people are struggling with, much as we are. How many of you are seeing something or have heard something that wasn't what you wrote, but also is happening or that you can relate to that happened to you? Yeah, lots of hands and nods. Yes. Yes. Balancing great opportunities without imposter syndrome. So potent and poignant. Mother, end of life. We don't have time to read this, but we can feel the it's we don't have time, and yet this is the reality of our lives. And it's not the only reality. So I'm curious, now that we've named it, many of you, and heard some of it and reading some of it, what, if anything, and there's no expectation that something has changed, but what, if anything, changed just by acknowledging it? Writing it, hearing it, seeing someone else's. What's here now? And you can even check in with your body. And actually, let's hear some. Yeah. Great. And you're welcome if you'd like to bring your voice in, you can also raise your hand. Space to breathe. Feels like an exhale. Compassion for self and others on the call. Not alone. Not alone. Release, relieving, universality. Less alone. The experience is normalized. Being heard relaxes my body, feels lighter, not alone. Community, sadness. And mine doesn't seem so turbulent after reading everyone's. An ease within my body that there's community, that others are also navigating difficulty. More compassion for self and others, a part of humanity, connecting, not alone. Release, compassion. This exhale, it's so fascinating because that's actually the nervous system moving from the sympathetic nervous system, the fight flight, to the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. So this connection supports that presence, radical acceptance and love of self. And I really appreciate that a few of you have noted the sadness, which for some of us is an emotion that we mostly want to avoid. So letting ourselves know it and feel it is also a moment of awareness. Yeah. And I just want to share, someone just wrote to me, everyone else seems to have situations that they can control. My situation seems out of my control. I really appreciate this being raised. How many people feel that their situation is not in their control? Look around. I think that what this person is saying is really important. So thank you for naming it. Being out of control or feeling out of control, feeling helpless is actually a part of the turbulence. When you're in an airplane and the fasten your seatbelt comes on, it's like, oh, I'm not in charge here. I am so not in charge here. And that is like that's the second arrow for some of you who know that story about there's the turbulence and then there's the thought that arises, oh, somebody else is in charge of that. Yeah. Yeah. And even when we might have some control, it can feel out of control. It's very interesting. Of course, the other aspect of this is the outer the outer conditions might be out of our control. And yet, and this is what we're going to be exploring, we have some control about how we move, but we need to know that. So I'm gonna try something I've never tried in these, and I'm gonna share the screen. I made up a few very simple slides, but I think when we're working with such challenging issues, it can help to also have a visual. It can help our brain sort of manage this, and our hearts and our bodies. And I want to remind you again that when I invite these kinds of reflections, you are really welcome to choose something much lower or even really neutral on the scale. So let me share the screen. Can you all see the, just give me a thumbs up here if you can. Can you see the slides? Yes? Okay. So navigating turbulent times with presence. So we just did an experience and exploration of turbulence. And we'll be in a brief time looking at bringing presence, although even in our exploration of turbulence and what happens when we name things, there's a little more presence here. This exhale, the parasympathetic nervous system comes online, which allows for more presence. So the first step is to become aware when we notice the turbulence. The interesting challenge of this is that the turbulence often grabs our attention, and we narrow. We narrow our vision, we tighten the body. And so to become aware of it also introduces a little space, and naming it, there's really good research on this, that naming it tames it even a little bit. And you all, right from your own data, you said this, that by naming it, by seeing that, oh, this is alive in this community, there is just, and it can be just a very small piece, but it's something to grow. So another part of this first step are recognizing the habits of mind, mood, and behavior that that arise when turbulence arises. So I'm gonna stop the share and offer some of the ways that our habits might show up in the moment of turbulence. And I'll use this airplane analogy because it's often where that word is used. So I'm claustrophobic, and I've had a number of experiences while on a flight of turbulence, strong turbulence. And I know right where my body goes. I tighten. I've actually asked strangers that I'm sitting next to, could I hold your hand? If I grab you, please don't, just know that I'm in a state. And I watch my mind also go to catastrophizing, ruminating. If I can catch myself in that moment, usually within a minute or two, I'm able to recognize and come to my anchor, or distract myself, move to something. I'll get really engrossed in my book and just say, I'm just going to duck down right now. So this way that some might say that's avoiding, but I don't have any control in that moment. And in that moment, it feels like a really supportive thing. So I want to also really normalize that the ways that our minds work is often very useful, that it's a pattern that has worked for us in the past, that has served us in the past. And often what happens in those mind patterns is it's applied across the board, applied globally, and that's where it doesn't work. So it works in the instance when I'm in the airplane, I can control the turbulence. It's not like it's not hugely dangerous, and I can just escape into my book. But there are other things when I've escaped in other situations and sort of turned off, like I'll just ignore that, where it's not so useful. I'm avoiding something that really does need to be met. Others of us might move into the future, catastrophize. I have a colleague, and she mostly goes to paranoid and hypervigilant and thinking that, everyone's out to get her, or wondering, what's behind the closed door, or what did that email really mean? Did these ring a bell? There's another behavior that can often show up of getting busy. Well, I'm just gonna, make soup or clean the house or get my email down to 20, as my other colleague often does. These ways, I'm gonna just go for a 10-mile run. Or so over exercising or over sleeping, or so we can move in the direction of doing, or we can move in the direction of sloth, of like, I'm not going to move, I can't move. So getting frozen or stuck in these patterns. So we can see that there's like a number of biological responses we can have that can be useful. They are biological. I want to really point this out, both the thinking and the behavior, the biology, the feeling of tightness, the feeling of I need to run, or I feel caught. So I think demystifying and destigmatizing the human experiences around challenge is really critical. And it just touches my heart so much to see so many heads nodding, like, right, this is normal behavior. But then where do we have a choice? Where can we shift things? Where can we pause? Where can we find a place to rest in the middle of things? So I want to just check my notes here. Another piece that I want to name in the naming to tame it, that aspect, it immediately brings our prefrontal cortex online. It brings our executive function. I have a favorite saying that awareness is never lost. So we might have the reaction. We might totally freak out. It might take us an hour or 2 days to sort of calm down. But as soon as we become aware, the awareness it's like turning the light on. It's like the darkness just goes. It's like as soon as there's awareness, whatever happened, we don't have to go into the review and regret portion. We can just really be present with the light that's turned on. And in that moment, we don't abandon ourselves. And every moment that we don't abandon ourselves, or that we come back and pick ourselves up, is another kind of movement of that muscle. It's like another rep that makes it harder and harder to abandon ourselves the next time. So let me come back to the shared screen, and I want to move us into the direction of presence. So where are we here? Let's go to the slideshow. So when we become aware, there are some active actions. I don't know about you, but it's harder to change my mind than it is my body. And this can be a useful doorway in. For some people, the changing the mind might be easier. I don't know if I've met them yet, however. So right now, I'm going to invite you to try these on, and then we'll do a practice, and you'll be able to implement any of them. You'll be able to put any of them into practice. But you might just sit up straight, not rigidly, but with a sense of dignity. Bringing both of your feet to the floor. And allow your gaze to widen, to take in the landscape and the horizon. There's actually a visual part of this, which is called orienting practice. And just allowing your eyes to slowly move over the landscape. Not narrowing, kind of keeping a wide angle. It might be subtle, and you might notice some inward changes as you do this. Letting your awareness be fully in the body. And now inviting you to stand up and come into a standing mountain. Oop. And feeling how that is, again, with that same invitation to allow the eyes to be wide, broad. You might even change direction a little bit, be it an angle. Remembering that a mountain is a mountain on all sides. So not just the front, but the back of you and the sides. And then if you care to, engaging in a very brief, we're just going to do this for about a minute, a walking practice. Moving in a way that supports the presence that you're building. Of course, for many of us, some of these are parts of our formal or informal daily practice. And each time we practice, again, we're building this muscle, embodying clarity, kindness, both gentleness and firmness. Then when you're ready, coming back to mountain and choosing, if you care to sit down. We'll do a few more of these options. And the reason I want to offer several of these is because in different situations, we can only do so much. So if we're in a meeting, a work meeting, sitting up straight and putting both feet on the floor may be all that we can do in the moment when we feel we're about to be hijacked or there's some bumpiness in the meeting. At other times, standing up is possible or doing walking practice. The other options are with touch. So I invite you, I'm going to hold my fist up, but you can hold it in your lap. Make a fist and imagine that this fist is whatever turbulence or challenge or circumstance that you're working with right now. Again, choosing something moderate. And feel it. Feel the tightness. Like let the fist really express what's happening. And then taking your other hand like a good friend and placing it in support of the fist. And see what happens. Just noting what's happening in the hands, in the rest of the body, and the mind. And then we'll try another one of these, which is if you place your hands palms facing each other and sliding them out so the fingers interlock. And you can do this in your, again, you can do this in your lap. I'm doing it so that people can see. And just give a tiny tug, just so you can feel the curves and the sensation of your hand against your hand. You might place it in your lap and just see what that feels like. It's often different than the first one, but also brings its own response. And then this one, you might have something in your pocket, but this is where having a special stone or a charm or some talisman that you tuck in your pocket. Again, if you're at a meeting, you can just reach in your pocket and hold this as an expression of your rootedness, of your groundedness, of your own capacity. And I'm going to end with one that would most of us aren't able to do in a meeting or something. I'm going to stop the share now. But it was one that I had never done before until the pandemic. And I would wake up in the morning and I would be afraid. I would not know what was going on in those early days. And I would lie in bed, and it arose very spontaneously to give myself a hug, to feel my own hands around me, my own arms. So you might try that right now and just feel the sense of, I've got you. There might be words that arise. Oh, dear one, I'm here. This can be great. Sometimes also brushing the body off, feeling the pressure of your own arms against your body, reassuring, even the hands on the thighs, rubbing them up and down. So let's practice with these, and would really encourage you to stay with one for now. We're only going to have about 10 minutes. So just pick one or maybe two to explore. So coming to a comfortable sitting or standing posture, whichever is best for you. Yeah. Yeah, so I just want to recognize those of you who've placed in the chat the power of these movements, emotional release, the coming to tears, this way that we can, the heart breaks open to ourselves when we meet ourselves, when we don't abandon ourselves. So lowering or closing the eyes and taking what will be useful. I'll have more silence in this sit. Will just be about 10 minutes. Again, if it feels useful, you can also call to mind one of the bumpy places in your life. But if it gets too much, know that you can open your eyes, change positions. And if you're choosing one of the touch options, sitting with it for several minutes can be very interesting. See what arrives. Oftentimes, when we stay with ourselves in this way, when we follow ourselves, things shift. It sometimes takes courage as well to keep letting things unfold. We get to a place and we like it and we want to, okay, can I stay here? And you can ask, can I stay here for a few breaths anyway? And this kind of dialogue between ourselves, with ourselves, is really useful. We build trustworthiness. This is a deep meaning of befriending. Staying close to your moment by moment unfolding. How the body is, the emotional field, and the mind, which might include resistance. It's all welcome. It's not unusual for this kind of practice to also uh, invite a kind of expansiveness. And just stay closely in touch with staying grounded as well, connected to the feet and the earth, rooted. In this moment, the turbulence might be far away or have changed in size, possibly. It takes great courage to drop into this space in the middle of turbulence. And it can be savored. Savoring also is a muscle of awareness, a muscle of kindness and of choice. In the same way that we can name it to tame it, we can name it to relish it. So if there's something that's here in your practice right now that you want to remember, can you name it to yourself? Can you hold it? The warmth in your chest, the strength in your arms, the spaciousness, calm, peace, whatever is true for you. Even if it feels very small or slight. And now with care and slowly, we'll transition from this formal practice. So whatever way feels caring. I find myself giving my hands a massage right now. And a smile came to my lips. Whatever for you feels like a way to caringly transition. Inviting the eyes to open as you're ready, stretching. With it, which is very powerful. That's a very powerful lesson. We often abandon ourselves too early. Yeah. Thank you. And the power of the simplest things is, I can't be overstated, really. So I'm aware that our time is, we're right a little over even. Just appreciate your presence here today and the energy and engagement that you brought. Take good care, have a good rest of your day or evening. And again, thank you for practicing. Bye-bye. You're welcome to unmute and bring your voice into the room to
Thank
say
you,
goodbye.
everyone.
Thank
So
you.
long.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Good day,
Bye,
all.
Savita.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Have a good
much.
day.
Thanks,
so much.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Lynn.
You
Thank you.
too.
So nice.
Thank you, Lynn. Really good to see you.
Great, Margaret. Good to see you. Hi, Amy. Bye-bye. Wishing you all well. Take care.